Good morning, Rayfield. Here's another lesson for today from our lessons of mental toughness, the upside down of boredom. Most of us grew up thinking that boredom was something to avoid. We were told that it stemmed from absence of curiosity, lack of interest, inability to entertain ourselves. We were told only boring people get bored. Naturally, boredom took a negative connotation. It's surprisingly that in adulthood, boredom leaves us feeling unsettled. Some of us may see the experience of niggling sense of guilt from being in such a state. If we're bored, we're not busy or productive enough, right? Wrong. The truth is, there's nothing bad about boredom. In fact, it could be a gift. Rather than trying to fill the void, we should enjoy, even celebrate the downtime. It is an opportunity to think about our circumstances, to contemplate the day, and improve on our self-awareness. These activities bolster our psychological readiness and in so doing increase our mental toughness. In this lesson, we're going to learn that boredom is not only inevitable, but it's also necessary. It's a fundamental part of developing an expertise in any skill, a process that rises our self-confidence. You'll also receive several tips that will help you get comfortable with boredom and learn to embrace it. Boredom is a mastery. You have to master boredom. Think of a skill that you've mastered. Consider the time and attention that you devoted to it. Reflect on the experience of practicing your craft. There were undoubtedly times when you felt bored during the process. The brain is stimulated by new things. We're excited by the prospect of learning new skills and putting them to use. The trouble is, mastering a skill requires practice and repetition. And when you practice something, you go over it over and over again. You must continue to put the time in to maintain proficiency. The brain automatically goes to sleep, working on autopilot. In this way, boredom is a precondition of mastery. No one masters anything without experiencing boredom in the process. For example, suppose you've mastered playing the guitar, and you've devoted thousands of hours to memorizing every chord and scale, playing them cleanly, and learning the music theory to deepen your understanding about everything that fits together. After years of training, you are an expert. You surely experience times of intense boredom along the way. That's how mastery works. If you plan to develop expertise in a skill or a craft, boredom should be a part of that expectation. Mastery is a necessity for mental toughness. Why is mastery important to us in the context of developing mental toughness? Because mastery gives us the sense of control. The more we control, the more we feel we possess, the more confidence we have, and we overcome obstacles and resolve complications. When we have mastered something relevant to our circumstances, we get the impression that we lack control. Let me say that again. When we haven't mastered something relevant to our circumstances, we get the impression that we lack self-control. This impression causes us to feel unprepared, lacking the prerequisite skill to achieve success. In this situation, we're more inclined to give up when we face adversity. For example, suppose you are preparing a report for your boss. In this complex report, pulling data from multiple spreadsheets, imagine that you run into problems. There's evidently something wrong with the formulas you've created to put into the appropriate data. If you're proficient in the use of spreadsheets, you'll feel comfortable. But if you're not proficient in the use of spreadsheets, you're going to feel like a failure. You'll have a sense of control over your circumstances. Consequently, you'll be inclined to persevere until you master and get that resolved. You'll trust yourself to see yourself through to success. But let's say you rarely work on spreadsheets. You can input data cells and create multiple formulas where the expertise ends. In this situation, you will discover complex problems with the report you're creating for your boss, and you won't feel that you are in control. Likely, you'll feel that you need to get help from someone else quickly because you don't want to disappoint your boss. Here lies the reason mastery is essential for mental toughness. When we're proficient in something that's relevant to our circumstances, we trust ourselves. We have confidence in our skills and our abilities. This confidence reinforces our tenacity and our resolve. We persevere on and on until we overcome any obstacle that may stand in our path. And so, we're more likely to press onward and not surrender to defeat. As mentioned above, mastery is always accompanied by boredom. The latter is the natural part of becoming adept in any skill or craft. And that being the case, boredom is something to avoid. It's something to embrace. How to get comfortable with boredom. When you feel bored while performing a task, remind yourself, why are you performing this task in the first place? What do you hope to accomplish? What is the outcome, and how is that outcome important to you? Let's return to our early scenario of the spreadsheet. You're working with spreadsheets because your boss assigned you a report to do. You hope to produce a spreadsheet that will be helpful to your boss. And it's important to you because you want to look good in front of your boss. And that positive impression might lead to a higher paying job, a promotion, and a raise down the road. So you shift your attention from that task at hand to the greater goal. This makes it easier to tolerate the boredom that you're experiencing while creating the spreadsheet. Your attention is focused on how your long-term purpose is going to be useful to you in the future. It is also helpful to acknowledge when you're bored. Boredom is subtle and often settles without realization. Recognize that you're bored and identify the reason. That'll make it easy to accept the boredom and move on before it stirs up any negative emotions, stress, frustration, or depression. Another way to deal with boredom is to turn whatever you're doing into a game. This will make it whatever task you are doing or project you're working on more enjoyable. Even when you're working on a small project, small rewards to achieving specific milestones make you feel better. For example, suppose you're practicing playing scales on a guitar. You know the scales like the back of your hand, so the practice session is boring. Turn the practice session into a game with small rewards. For instance, set a timer for 5 minutes and then try to play the scales up and down without making a single error. If you succeed, enjoy a small piece of your favorite candy bar. Suppose you're working on a aforementioned spreadsheet report for your boss. Here's that spreadsheet again. And it's boring to work on, particularly in the depth of using spreadsheets. So turn it into a game. Set a timer and try to finish a section of the report in the next 3 minutes. Or come up with a novel strategy for pulling data that you've never used before. Another effective tactic is to meditate. Meditation trains your mind to be present. It decentralizes your mind to deal with boredom and encourage you to find peace and joy within the moment. Rather than looking for distractions to stave off the boredom, your mind will turn into and refrain and focus on relaxed absence and stimulation. Boredom is a companion to developing mental toughness. It is a part of the process and, importantly, far from negative connotation. We should learn to welcome it when it is associated with skills and practice. After all, it suggests that when we're on top of it, we obtain true mastery. Okay, so let's do an exercise related to this lesson. Write down the feelings you typically feel when you feel that you are bored. Some may be positive, some may be negative. Here are some examples: restlessness, frustration, calmness, satisfaction, irritability, amusement, guilt, optimism, and pessimism. Next, refrain from negative emotions. For example, if you typically feel restless when you're bored, determine the reason. Perhaps you were raised to believe that idle time is worthless and you should always have something to do. In this case, you can reframe the idle time as a valuable downtime during which you have the opportunity to relax and recharge. And that's a different way of thinking about boredom. All righty, guys. It is another great day at Rayfield, and we are continuing our lessons on mental toughness and how to master our boredom and see it differently and see that boredom can be used constructively. It's another great day. Let's get this day going.